The man who keeps a way out never gets all the way in. If you have a plan B, you will serve it when plan A gets hard, and if you keep a second door, you will never set fire to the first one. I am not here to encourage you, and I am here to show you that the only way forward is to remove the option of going back. The most powerful men in history did not have more options. They made one decision and made it final. There is a quiet betrayal that takes place in the minds of most men, a betrayal not spoken, but rehearsed. It is the hidden clause, the quiet agreement, the fallback plan silently kept in reserve. It is called Plan B. And while it sounds wise, while it wears the language of strategy, it is nothing more than a safety net for fear. It is the architecture of escape. And the moment you construct it, you have already told your subconscious that failure is on the table. You have already whispered that you do not fully believe. You have already announced, without saying a word, that you do not intend to burn the bridge behind you. No man ever became unstoppable while planning for retreat. No empire was ever built by a man with 1 foot in the future and 1 foot in the safe zone. You cannot walk toward greatness while leaving the door cracked behind you. The man who leaves a way out has already planned to use it. The moment you hold back a portion of your will, just in case, you divide your force, you split your intention, and you weaken your claim to the outcome you say you desire. Your subconscious does not operate by appearances, it operates by structure and repetition. And when you say, "This is my aim," but secretly add, "and if not, I'll do this instead," the subconscious hears confusion. It hears compromise, and confusion never creates command. Your mind must receive one order, one clear, final, absolute instruction. And that instruction must be backed not with wish or half-belief, but with faith made visible through action. I have written this in stone. Desire backed by faith knows no such word as impossible. But I tell you now, faith cannot coexist with fallback. Faith dies in the presence of retreat. Faith cannot live in the same body as doubt. Faith, if it is real, consumes everything else. And until you build that kind of faith, one desire, no retreat, you will never access the full strength of your own mind. When you remove the escape hatch, you begin to see what you're truly made of. And most men don't want to know. That's why they leave the second door open. That's why they say, "We'll see what happens." That's why they say, "I'm just keeping my options open." Because they are afraid to know what happens when they remove the possibility of quitting. They are afraid of the pressure. But pressure is what purifies. Pressure is what forces clarity, sharpens decisions, and births momentum. Look to the men who burned history into stone, not because they were clever, but because they were committed beyond reversal. Look at Hernan Cortez, the man who brought 600 men across the sea to conquer an empire. And when they landed, he did not prepare for retreat. He did not plan for resistance. He burned the ships, and in that fire he sent a message, not to the enemy, but to his own men. There would be no going back. There was only forward or death, and in that pressure they did not collapse. They rose. Look at Andrew Carnegie, who decided that he would master the steel industry. He did not play it safe. He did not try multiple ventures just in case one failed. He did not split his efforts across industries to diversify his risk. He chose steel, and then he poured everything into it: time, focus, capital, identity. He did not leave the bridge intact. He built forward with no rear view. And because of that, he did not just grow wealth, he became the lawmaker of an industry. This is the fire you must now walk into. You will not be refined by hope. You will not be reshaped by dabbling. You will not be rebuilt by backup plans. You will be rebuilt by finality. You must say, "This is the aim," and then move as if nothing else exists. You must begin to act as if there is no way out, because the truth is, the man who gives himself no way out begins to tap into power that the average man will never touch. You will begin to think differently when failure is not an option. You will begin to listen more closely, observe more sharply, move more decisively, because now it must work. And that urgency will eliminate your excuses. It will purge your distraction. It will refine your standards. And from that refining fire, a new version of you will be forged, one that is not interested in applause or rescue, but in finishing what he started. Men fail not because of lack of skill, but because of too many soft exits. They say, if this doesn't work, I'll fall back on that. They say, let's give it some time, and if not, we'll try another direction. But that is not belief. That is a man negotiating with his own cowardice. And I tell you now, you will not negotiate with fear and win. You must remove the door, lock the hinge, burn the map. You must tell your mind, your body, your very blood, this is it. We go forward. We do not turn. You are not here to try. You are here to enforce. You are not here to test the waters. You are here to take the hill. And you will take it only when the possibility of surrender has been removed from your vocabulary. And now I give you your first declaration in this new life. Say it slowly. Say it with finality. Say it like a man who has cut the rope behind him and thrown the blade into the sea. I am the man who moves without retreat. I build without exit. I rise without a second door. Again. I am the man who moves without retreat. I build without exit. I rise without a second door. Because from this day forward, the only plan is the one you declared. And it will be completed. Because there is no longer a path that allows you to walk away. Only forward, only fire. Only finish. The subconscious mind does not obey indecision. It does not respond to halfway commitments. It cannot serve a divided master. The mind, if it is to act as your greatest servant, must be given a single, clear, final instruction. And that instruction must be followed without detour. But when a man leaves an option open, when he builds his life with an escape hatch quietly tucked behind his aim, what he has created is not freedom, but conflict. He has given his subconscious two roads to obey, and a mind that must choose between two conflicting commands will choose neither. It will drift. You cannot rise while entertaining retreat. You cannot build while simultaneously asking yourself what to fall back on if it doesn't work. Every time you keep another plan, another path, another opportunity just in case, you are dividing the very force that you need to succeed. And force divided is force dissolved. The reason most men remain average is not because they lack ambition. It is because they lack obedience to one decision. They do not want to let go of all their options, so they dabble, they try, they taste, but they never build. Because building requires devotion, and devotion cannot be shared with safety nets. The man who becomes unstoppable is not the man who knows the most. He is the man who has committed the deepest, the man who no longer looks for another way, the man who no longer says, if this doesn't work. Because the moment that phrase enters your mind, your spirit has already weakened. You cannot fully commit while planning for collapse. You cannot think with force while entertaining maybe. You cannot build with authority while whispering plan B in the background of your belief. A decision is not a preference. It is a spiritual command. It is a line drawn in fire. And every time you act, every time you speak, every time you breathe, you do so in full submission to that line. That is what changes men. That is what burns weakness to ash. That is what tells the subconscious there is only one direction: forward. Let me give you the law plainly. You cannot become what you will not fully serve. And to fully serve, you must remove the return map. You must erase the second option. You must kill the sentence that begins with, if this doesn't, because there is no if. There is only this will be done. And if it takes 10 years, it takes 10 years. If it takes failure, so be it. If it takes rebuilding the entire structure of your mind, your habits, and your life, so be it. But you will not leave. You will not shift direction. You will not excuse the pain with backup plans. Think now of Thomas Edison, a man who failed thousands of times in search of one working design. He did not try one path and then choose another when it became difficult. He did not say, if this doesn't work, I'll pursue something else. He devoted. He did not live for comfort. He lived for the completion of one thing. He did not treat failure as a sign to quit. He treated it as a message. Try again, sharper, more refined, more committed. He held no plan B because he did not require one. He would succeed or he would learn until he succeeded. That is why he invented light while the world waited in darkness. You must ask yourself now, what is the light you have been assigned to build? And what is the shadow you keep protecting by holding on to another path? It is time to identify the exits, identify the moments, the phrases, the patterns where you've been hedging, where you've said just in case, where you've kept a skill, a contact, a plan in your back pocket for safety. That safety is costing you force. That safety is dividing your destiny, and it must be removed. Take the pen. Draw a line down the page. On one side, write your aim, the thing you must do, the one mountain you have chosen to climb. On the other side, write every whisper of escape you've been entertaining, the jobs you keep for security, the people you keep around to validate your hesitation, the words you say to soften your fear. I'll give it time. I'll see how it goes. If it works, then write them all down. Now cross them out. That act, though simple, is sacred because it tells your mind, we do not go back. You are not the man you were when you kept exits. You are now the man who moves without them. And that movement will change everything, not because you have new skills, but because you have new authority. Your presence will change. Your habits will harden. Your standards will rise because you have stopped giving your power away to what if. And now, your affirmation. Say it not like a quote. Say it like a vow. Let your voice match the weight of what you've just declared. I remove the back door. I revoke the retreat. I advance with no reserve. Again. I remove the back door. I revoke the retreat. I advance with no reserve. Because the man who no longer allows retreat is the man who now commands respect from himself first and then from the world. The man who reaches the top does not arrive by knowing more. He arrives because he decided earlier, moved sooner, and refused to retreat. The world does not reward intelligence. It rewards finality. Finality is the spiritual cement that turns thought into structure. It is the mental knife that cuts away options. It is the invisible force that makes mountains move, not because the man was brilliant, but because the man refused to turn back. While others studied, he decided. While others waited, he walked. While others collected opinions, he enforced his own. This is the truth. The world moves around the man who cannot be moved, not the clever one, not the one with the most plans, but the man who has given himself one aim and placed his entire identity behind it. That man becomes magnetic. That man becomes undeniable. That man becomes the reference point by which others must recalculate. You do not need more facts. You need finality, because until your decision becomes final, your power will remain partial. And partial power is no power at all. Decision is not just a mental act, it is a spiritual law. When you decide, truly decide, all the invisible forces of the world begin to align behind that declaration. But the moment you second guess, you disband the army. You lose the current. You confuse the subconscious. You send mixed instructions to the very system designed to obey you. The mind does not honor the man who flinches. It honors the man who commands. Most men delay decision, hoping for certainty. But certainty does not precede decision. It follows it. The man who acts first becomes certain in the fire. He builds certainty by walking into the unknown, by staying the course when discomfort calls, by refusing to revise his direction when doubt knocks. And it is in this fire that finality is forged, not in thinking, but in walking, not in comfort, but in commitment. Look to Henry Ford. He was not a man of backup plans. He was not distracted by what others were doing. He did not shift his aim based on economic tides or public opinion. He decided that the average man would drive, and once he decided, he never asked again. He built for the working man. He created systems for the masses. He refused to add features when others pressured him to change. Why? Because he had already chosen. And the man who has already chosen is not interested in revision. He is interested in completion. Ford's strength was not in mechanics, it was in mental finality. His refusal to be moved gave his engineers something to rally behind. It gave the company a fixed star, and that star did not flicker, even under pressure. He did not ask for permission to simplify. He did not entertain endless suggestions. He walked forward with a direction so final that others had to adjust their beliefs to match it. That is the kind of force that reshapes markets. That is the kind of will that commands history. And you must now ask yourself, have I truly decided, or am I still negotiating with old options? Because the man who is still wondering is the man who has not yet moved. He may be busy, but he is not certain. He may be productive, but he is not powerful. He is still available to distraction. Decision is not a feeling. It is not a phase. It is not something you stumble into after studying all the data. It is a moment, a line, a sentence spoken in the private court of your own soul. This is what I will do, and I will not change. That sentence, once spoken in fire, becomes law, and every thought, every step, every sacrifice after that must answer to it. When you reach this level of decision, you begin to draw invisible forces to your side. You begin to see doors open where there were none. You begin to find strength in places you once collapsed. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stopped asking. You started commanding. You stopped browsing. You started building. And your identity began to harden into something the world must now reckon with. You must now make the final decision. Not in word, in posture, in schedule, in movement. You must cut away the questions that no longer deserve your time. You must eliminate the idea that you can come back to this later. You must speak your aim aloud and declare that it is now permanent. This is the end of drift. This is the end of wandering. This is the beginning of force. Now I give you your affirmation. Say it like a man who is already walking into completion. I decide and do not turn. I choose and do not tremble. I walk forward and do not look back. Again. I decide and do not turn. I choose and do not tremble. I walk forward and do not look back. Because the men who move the world are not the ones who waited for certainty. They are the ones who made it. Fear does not survive in the heart of a man who has eliminated his exits. It cannot feed where there is no retreat. It cannot grow where the door has been bolted shut. It cannot command where the bridge has been burned. Fear feeds on options, the idea that you still have another way, another path, another plan. So long as a man believes that he can fall back, he will hesitate in the direction he needs to go most. He will water his belief with doubt. He will walk, but only at half pace. He will move, but only with one eye on the escape. And as long as he does, he will never know what it means to be free. You must understand this. Fear requires an escape hatch to stay alive. It survives on indecision. It multiplies in spaces of uncertainty. It keeps its power through the promise of postponement. And this is why so many men feel paralyzed, not because they lack the ability to move forward, but because they have made retreat an option. They may say they believe in their goal. They may say they are committed. But if they are still keeping a door open behind them, fear will always find a place to enter. The only way to kill fear is to remove what it feeds on. That means removing the possibility of going back. That means eliminating the secondary path. That means declaring in voice and in movement, there is no other way, this is it. And when that declaration is real, when it is final, fear begins to starve, because now the man is not available for retreat. Now the man is not wondering what he will do if it doesn't work. Now the man is advancing, and fear cannot keep up with a man who is no longer hesitating. Let me make it clear. No plan B does not just sharpen your focus. It kills your fear. It calls upon strength you did not know you had. It summons clarity in chaos. It unlocks movement in the middle of pressure, not because the path is easier, but because you've removed the alternative. That is where courage is born. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the absence of escape. And the man who walks forward without the possibility of retreat discovers just how strong he actually is. Look now at John D. Rockefeller. In times of panic and collapse, when others fled, when men clutched at their capital and froze in fear, Rockefeller continued building. He bought when others sold. He moved when others paused. He did not panic. He did not drift. He stayed fixed. Why? Because he was married to his mission. He was not exploring other industries. He was not second-guessing his aim. He had made the decision, and once made, it was done. And that mental finality gave him peace when others were overtaken by pressure. He did not need escape. He had already removed it. And in its place, he installed certainty. You must now do the same. You must locate the places where fear still speaks, and you must trace each one back to its source. You will always find the same thing at its root: an escape you have not removed, a path you have not burned, a phrase you still say to give yourself relief from commitment. We'll see how this plays out. I'll give it 6 months. If it works, then these are not strategy. These are cracks in your foundation. And through those cracks, fear enters. Take inventory now. Ask yourself, where am I still holding back? Where am I still negotiating with fear? What decision have I delayed? What conversation have I avoided? What move have I postponed? Not because I am unready, but because I have not yet removed the exit. Find it, circle it, eliminate it. That act, though it may look small, will shift your entire internal structure. Because when you kill the escape, you ignite the mind. The man who has nowhere to go but forward will find new strength in every step. This is not theory. This is law. The mind, once fully committed, begins to operate differently. The will hardens. The body responds. The eyes sharpen. And the actions that once required force now become natural, because they are no longer one of many. They are the only path. And when the path becomes singular, your power becomes focused. And focused power does not ask for fear's opinion. Now I give you your drill. Take a page. At the top, write, where fear speaks, escape still exists. Then write every place in your life where you feel resistance, hesitation, tension. Now ask, what have I not burned? The backup contact, the fallback job, the plan you told no one about but still keep in your pocket. The voice that says, if it fails, identify it. Then cross it out with the full intention of a man who is ready to move without retreat. Because you are not here to flirt with destiny, you are here to marry it. And now your affirmation. Say it not to silence fear, but to starve it. I do not consult fear. I do not keep escape. I kill the exit. I move with fire. Again. I do not consult fear. I do not keep escape. I kill the exit. I move with fire. Because from this moment forward, you are not a man who asks for courage. You are a man who summons it by walking forward with no way back. Success does not arrive like a favor. It does not appear because you tried. It does not respond to polite request. Success is not achieved. It is demanded. And the man who demands it is not rude. He is not arrogant. He is simply resolved. He has removed the internal discussion. He no longer asks, will this happen? He says, it will be done. And once that is his tone, once that is his posture, success begins to shift in his direction. Not because he is entitled, but because he has made himself immovable. This is what no plan B does. It removes the possibility of waiting. It destroys the permission you once gave yourself to delay. It closes the door on passivity and replaces it with enforcement. A man who cannot retreat becomes a man who must produce. And that necessity awakens a power most men never tap, not because they were incapable of greatness, but because they always left themselves the option to wait until they felt ready. Readiness is a luxury the committed man cannot afford. He moves without it. He decides in spite of it. He makes results a requirement, not a reward. The moment you say, I will do this or I will rebuild until it is done, you have shifted your relationship with life. You are no longer a seeker. You are now a builder. You are no longer a dreamer. You are now a commander. And while others watch and wonder and wait, you finish. Let me give you one of my laws. Success requires no apology. Failure permits no alibi. And the man who understands this does not look for excuses. He does not ask to be understood. He does not explain why he is not further along. He simply builds again. He adjusts. He adapts. He continues. Because he is not married to the result. He is married to the responsibility. And responsibility does not need permission to succeed. It needs persistence. When you remove Plan B, you remove the illusion of final failure. You begin to see that every setback is a correction, not a defeat. Because you are no longer entertaining alternatives. You will get the outcome, or you will become the man who gets the outcome. Either way, you win. This is what separates the few who finish from the many who fade. They are unavailable to failure as a destination. You must become that man, not someday, today. Because as long as you're still waiting to feel certain, as long as you're still wondering whether the result is guaranteed, you will never demand enough from yourself to break through. The man who moves mountains is the man who refuses to pause until the mountain has moved. And when it doesn't move the first time, he brings another tool, another angle, another level of fire. Because he is not asking for success, he is claiming it. Look now to Abraham Lincoln, a man who failed repeatedly in his early years. He lost elections. He lost battles. He faced criticism that would have made most men retreat. He walked into leadership at the brink of national collapse. But he did not yield. He did not waver. He stayed anchored to the path. He did not say, let me try something else. He did not ask to be spared from the weight. He shouldered it. He bore it. He grew stronger beneath it. Because to him, the path was not optional. It was sacred. And that is how you must now walk. You are no longer here to experiment with identity. You are here to demand results from it. You are no longer here to test the waters. You are here to cross the sea. You are no longer asking for a chance. You are saying, this will be done. I will adjust. I will continue. I will complete. And if you say it enough, with fire, with repetition, with movement, your results will begin to obey you. You must now demand more from your time. No more casual hours. No more reactive mornings. No more quiet surrender to average standards. You must now demand more from your thoughts. No more rehearsal of fear. No more comforting lies. No more someday thinking. And you must now demand more from your words. You do not speak aimlessly. You speak to instruct your mind. You speak to enforce your direction. You speak only when your words are followed by action. This is what no Plan B gives you. It forces a level of clarity that leaves no room for indulgence. And that clarity becomes strength. You will begin to see opportunities you once missed. Not because they weren't there, but because you are now ready to recognize them. The man who demands success sees what others ignore. He listens for signals others drown out. He moves when others are still evaluating. He acts as if the result is already owed to him by the laws of decision, because in truth it is. And now I give you your affirmation. Say it not to ask. Say it to declare. Say it until your mind accepts that success is no longer a wish. I do not attempt, I demand. I do not retreat, I rework. I do not quit, I conquer. Again, I do not attempt, I demand, I do not retreat, I rework, I do not quit, I conquer. Because the man who cannot walk away will always find a way. And you are now that man. You do not find yourself in reflection. You build yourself in fire. You do not discover who you are through variety, comfort, or choice. You forge who you are in the furnace of repetition, decision, and obedience to one aim over time. That is the truth most men will never accept. They think identity is a gift, something that comes through clarity or waiting. But identity is not found. It is built. It is built in pressure. It is built in pursuit. It is built by choosing one thing and refusing to release it, even when everything around you tells you to stop. The man who has no other way does not look for his identity. He becomes it. No plan B forces him to rise to the standard his vision demands. He does not ask, "Who am I?" He says, "This is what I must become to finish what I started." He does not act based on how he feels. He acts based on who he is becoming. And every decision he makes is aligned to a higher image of himself. Not because he is already that man, but because he is training for that man daily. This is the power of burning your options. When there is no other way, you begin to construct yourself for the weight of your mission. You no longer accept the habits of your old self because they are incompatible with your new direction. You begin to reject what no longer belongs, not through discipline alone, but through identity enforcement. You begin to behave differently because the future you are building demands it. You no longer lower yourself to match your environment. You begin to rise above your environment to match your vision. And how is this done? Not by inspiration, not by fleeting emotion, but by repetition and intensity over time. These are the two laws of personal construction. Repetition installs the structure. Intensity fuels the transformation. And time hardens it into who you are. You do not become strong by variety. You become strong by returning to the same structure day after day until your character is no longer a decision. It is a reflex. The men who became immortal in action did not achieve it by chasing multiple versions of themselves. They chose one aim. They lived by it. They trained under it. They enforced it. And through that enforcement, they became something unshakable. I know this because I lived it. For 25 years, I gave myself to one thing, not a brand, not a product, not an income stream, a philosophy, a truth, a system of laws that I knew, if obeyed, would transform any man who lived them. I had no plan B. I had no second lane. I wrote, I studied, I met with men of industry. I tested every principle, not once, but for decades. There was no detour. There was no pause. There was no interest in something else. There was only devotion. And in that devotion, I became more than a writer. I became the living result of the very philosophy I taught. You must do the same. You must pick the aim and then ask one question. Who must I become to finish this? What must I eliminate? What must I train? What must I enforce every day until the gap between the man I am and the man I am becoming no longer exists? Do not write soft traits. Write fire. Write posture. Write patterns. Then build them into your hours, not as tasks, but as proof of identity. Because when your aim becomes sacred, your character becomes non-negotiable. When the mission is permanent, your habits must become unbreakable. You will stop tolerating weakness, not because you want to be tough, but because your aim will not accept softness. You will train your mind, not because you enjoy it, but because your identity must be built under weight. You will walk differently, speak differently, decide differently, because every move you make must now answer to the vision you swore to complete. This is the hidden power of no plan B. It does not just remove distraction, it installs identity alignment. It turns the future you into a present standard. And once that standard is enforced consistently, others begin to notice, but more importantly, you begin to believe. And when you believe you are that man, you stop waiting for strength and start moving with it. Now I give you your drill. Take the aim you've chosen. Then write one sentence that defines the identity required to fulfill it. Then break that sentence into habits, patterns, actions, hours. If the identity is I am a man of absolute completion, then the habit must be, I do not leave things half-built. If the identity is, I walk with clarity, then the habit must be, I review my aim aloud before the day begins. Structure these traits. Practice them daily. Do not drift into them. Train them. And now, your affirmation. Say it like a man who is not becoming, but enforcing. I build myself in pursuit. I train my character in fire. I follow one aim until I am remade. Again, I build myself in pursuit. I train my character in fire. I follow one aim until I am remade. Because from this point forward, identity is not something you wait to find. It is something you construct until the world cannot separate who you are from what you do. The greatest lie ever told to a man with potential is that he must protect himself, that he must have a cushion, a second option, a fallback, something to soften the blow of life should he fail. That safety is strength. But I tell you now, safety is not strength. It is softness. It is compromise dressed as prudence. It is slow decay disguised as wisdom. And the longer you believe that the net beneath you is a sign of preparation, the longer you remain unformed, unfinished, unfeared. You were not built to walk with the net. You were built to walk the wire, high, exposed, visible, and to walk it with fire in your chest and steel in your spine. Because that is where greatness is made. That is where force is born. That is where the world stops and stares, not at the man who is calculating his landing, but at the man who moves with no option to fall. And that movement, that decision to remove the net, does something to the spirit. It sharpens it. It cleanses it. It activates something ancient, a hidden law that begins to shift everything in your favor the moment you stop allowing the fallback. This is the truth you must face. The safety net weakens you. It teaches your mind that softness is available. It teaches your body to move slowly. It teaches your habits that precision is optional. And it removes the greatest fuel any man can possess, necessity. When a man must win, when he cannot retreat, when he has already burned the bridge and buried the rope, he becomes something else, something rarer, something respected, something dangerous. No plan B is not a style of motivation. It is a law of pressure, and pressure is what purifies. When you remove your safety net, you no longer entertain excuses. You no longer drift into decisions. You no longer ask if you're ready. You move and you adapt in motion. You become the man who must finish because there is no version of the story where you do not. You begin to own the outcome, not partially, but entirely. You take full responsibility, not only for the process, but for the result. And that responsibility is what begins to separate you from the masses. Because most men, even the ambitious, leave the door open just enough to defer responsibility. They tell themselves, if I succeed, I'll claim it. If I fail, I'll say I tried. That is not ownership. That is disguise. That is the voice of a man still hiding behind the illusion of protection. But you are now different. You have chosen to walk forward with no net, and that choice does not make you foolish. It makes you formidable. Look to the men who did not hope for fortune, but constructed it. Look to the men who did not wait for validation, but enforced their decisions with finality. They did not operate with a margin of safety. They operated with mission or death. And that level of commitment does not kill, it awakens. Look to Charles M. Schwab, not the man of finance, but the steelman. He was not bred for greatness. He did not possess degrees or formal mastery. He was not handed empire. But he was given responsibility, and he claimed it. While others hesitated, he acted. While others calculated every possibility, he chose a direction and walked through the fire. He became indispensable to Carnegie not because he knew more, but because he was available for full responsibility. He did not ask for permission. He took ownership of the outcome, and the world, Carnegie, industry, history rewarded him. This is the secret. The moment you go all in, the world begins to bend. Doors open not because of luck, but because you have become a man worthy of them opening. You move differently. You decide faster. You show up with presence. You remove the option to blame. And when all of these forces combine, you begin to live under a different law. Not the law of chance, but the law of cause and completion. You must now make the net beneath you unavailable. You must cut away the parts of your schedule, your speech, your structure that still say, if not, then. You must walk into the hour with the understanding that this is the only hour, and it must be used. You must accept that risk is not to be avoided. It is to be converted into identity. And when you live this way, when the world sees that you are not returning to the ground, they begin to pay attention. Not because you're loud, but because you are now lethal. And now I give you your drill. Where have you placed the net? Where do you still allow yourself comfort in case the result doesn't arrive? Where do you say yes to backup, write it, burn it? Replace it with one decision, one structure, one fire. From this day forward, you either complete or you rebuild until it is done. But you do not soften, you do not fall, you do not ask. And now your affirmation. Say it without apology. Say it with finality. Say it like a man who will never look down again. I am not here to play it safe. I am here to play it final. I will not fall. I will build wings midair. Again. I am not here to play it safe. I am here to play it final. I will not fall. I will build wings midair. Because safety is not your ally. The fire beneath your feet is now your foundation. You cannot speak like an uncertain man and expect to live like a decisive one. Your speech is not decoration. It is instruction. It is the daily blueprint you hand to your subconscious. And your subconscious, with perfect obedience, builds what you say, not what you hope. Not what you whisper when no one listens, but what you speak out loud, with rhythm, with repetition, with force. You are not speaking for sound. You are speaking for structure. And if your words are poisoned with retreat, then retreat is exactly what you will live. Phrases like, if this doesn't work, let's wait and see. Just in case, I'll give it a try, are not neutral. They are slow poisons. They are drips of doubt fed directly into your nervous system. You think you're being cautious. You think you're being practical. But what you are doing is instructing your deepest mind to plan for defeat. And the subconscious mind, receiving that instruction, obeys. It begins to withdraw energy. It begins to dull intensity. It begins to soften your fire, not because you wanted to quit, but because you suggested that quitting might be acceptable. Understand this now. Every sentence you speak either confirms your identity or collapses it. There is no such thing as neutral speech. Every word is a blueprint. And if your blueprint is bent, your structure will crack. If your words are conditional, your actions will hesitate. And if your voice carries the language of retreat, your habits will follow with weakness. You must now eliminate that language, not reduce it, eliminate it. This means no more fallback phrases, no more hidden clauses of surrender, no more emotionally comfortable sentences that give you the appearance of movement without the enforcement of commitment. Your speech must now become command speech, language that reflects a man who has already decided. What is command speech? It is the language of absolute. It does not ask. It declares. It does not entertain failure. It reorders it. It speaks from the identity of the man you are becoming, not the man you are trying to escape. It says, I will. It says, this will be done. It says, I have already chosen. There is no if. There is no but. There is only instruction. Because that is what the subconscious understands, and that is what reality obeys. Look to Napoleon Bonaparte. He did not speak in hopes. He spoke in orders. He did not wonder aloud whether victory was possible. He spoke as if it had already happened. His generals did not ask him, what if we fail? Because they knew he had already eliminated that phrase from his mouth. He understood that victory begins with speech that permits no alternative. The world may not have loved him, but the world obeyed him, not because of his strategy, but because of his command. You must now speak as if the world already knows you cannot be stopped, not to impress others, but to reinforce your own mental instruction. Say your aim aloud each morning. Speak your 5 affirmations aloud each night. And throughout the day, inspect every word that comes from your mouth. Ask, does this command my direction, or does it give comfort to hesitation? Take a notebook. Title the top of the page, Language of Command. Then write 10 sentences that match your fire, 10 phrases that build identity. I complete everything I start. I do not explain. I execute. I move before doubt arrives. I eliminate delay. I train before sunrise. I enforce my standard in every hour. These are not lines to recite once. These are bricks in the construction of the man you are becoming. Speak them daily, not quietly, with certainty, breath, posture, and tone. Now make a second list. Title it Language of Retreat. Write every soft phrase you've used in the past week. Be ruthless. I hope it works. Let's wait and see. I might not be ready. We'll try. I don't know what will happen. Cross every one out. Then write the replacement phrase next to it. Install your new speech pattern, and then commit. These are now the only words I am allowed to use, because from this moment forward, your speech must be sharper than your feelings. You do not need more time. You need tighter vocabulary. You do not need more motivation. You need stricter instruction. Your words must not express your mood. They must express your mission, and your mission must be backed by verbal law. That law, spoken aloud often enough, repeated long enough, with enough internal heat, becomes your new internal software. And from that, the man is rebuilt. And now your affirmation. Speak it now. Speak it like your old language is standing in front of you, and your words must burn it to ash. I remove uncertain speech. I install the language of power. My words now match my direction. Again. I remove uncertain speech. I install the language of power. My words now match my direction. Because now your voice is no longer commentary. It is command. And the world is beginning to listen. There comes a moment where the man you were and the man you must become can no longer live in the same body. A moment where one must die so the other may rise. That moment is not marked by fanfare. It does not require ceremony. It begins with one decision, spoken without emotion and followed without pause. From this moment forward, there is no retreat. From this moment forward, there is only forward motion, completed tasks, and enforced direction. That decision, when made fully, is not the start of a new project. It is the birth of a new man. No plan B is not strategy. It is identity reconstruction. It is the removal of the old self, drifting, doubting, explaining, repeating, so that a man of enforcement, clarity, silence, and completion can be installed in his place. The moment you remove the exits, the fallback, the soft phrases, the emotional negotiations, your mind is no longer split. And a mind that is no longer split becomes something the world cannot bend. You are no longer a man who waits. You are no longer a man who reconsiders. You are no longer a man who watches others and wonders. You are the man who moves because he said he would. This transformation cannot be partial. It cannot be casual. You must now declare and declare again that your life will be dictated by a new code. No retreat, no softness, no compromise. That is your law now. You do not consult how you feel. You consult your aim. You do not slow down to make others comfortable. You obey the fire you planted in silence. You do not return to the man who broke promises to himself. He no longer exists. He served his time. He taught his lesson, but he is now buried. From this point forward, your thoughts must obey a new law. You no longer rehearse what you are afraid of. You rehearse what you will build. You no longer imagine worst-case scenarios. You envision finished blueprints delivered with precision. You no longer allow weakness to speak without confrontation. You catch it. You correct it. You replace it with repetition of purpose. Your time must also come under new discipline. Hours are not hours. They are containers for structure. They are blocks of obedience. You do not let time pass. You assign it. You do not hope to be productive. You schedule the proof of your identity. Each hour must answer to your final decision. Your habits, now enforced with absolute clarity, must no longer drift into old pathways. You must become intolerant of the past version of yourself. Your new self wakes with fire, declares his aim aloud, moves before the sun decides to rise, works without applause, speaks without explanation, finishes what he begins. And your speech, having now been cleansed of emotional softness and fallback, must become law, not performance, law. You speak only what directs your mind, affirms your belief, and enforces your next move. All else is cut. All else is dead. Because the man who has chosen no plan B does not waste breath. He speaks only when it builds. Now I give you your final challenge. For the next 30 days, live as if there is no way back. Make decisions faster than you feel ready. Move before you fully planned. Speak only from the voice of certainty. And every time the old voice rises, the voice of caution, of moderation, of retreat, you respond not with analysis, but with action. You correct it in movement. You break it by walking directly into the thing you once feared. Every day remind yourself, the bridge is burned. The old path is blocked. The former self has no vote. And you are no longer asking for life to give you permission. You are here to enforce your new identity in every hour until the result becomes inevitable. Do not wait for the world to respond. Respond first. Do not wonder if this will work. Work until it is done. Do not hesitate when the fire calls. Enter it. Because the fire that once scared you is now your foundation. And you will either burn in indecision, or you will burn away everything that no longer belongs. You have decided, and in that decision, you have now become unshakable. And now your final affirmation. Say it from your center. Say it like a man who has closed the door behind him, thrown the key into the sea, and picked up his tools. I walk forward, I finish what I start. Again, I walk forward, I finish what I start. Because the man who does not retreat is the man who cannot be stopped.